Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you, Father Damien. I want to start by first giving thanks to Almighty God, because I would not be here if it wasn't for him, as well as coming to DeMatha. I want to thank my parents, my wife and family, who could not be here today because I have a senior son, so they're out looking at colleges. I want to thank the selection committee. I want to thank the DeMatha faculty, both present and former faculty and staff. I want to thank you, Tom. But most of all, I want to thank who this is really dedicated to, the class of 73. If they could all stand, and let's give them a hand, please. Those people are Mark Harper-Jans, Frank Carey, Steve Tulick, Kevin McLeod, Mike Russo, Steve Valena, Gabe Hoswich, Bill Tedrow, Bill Ciatis. You know, DeMatha hasn't changed much in 40 years. And then again, a lot has changed. I've noticed some things hasn't changed. I noticed then Brother Damien and now Father Damien is still telling people what to do. And you know what? That's a good thing. Because you need that. But moreover, one thing that DeMatha gave us, our class of 73, and the classes that came before and the classes that have come after, were 5 characteristics that I think are extremely important. Whether you're somebody like me who, you know, when Adrian Danley was in my class and I realized I wasn't going to be playing basketball. So I became a nerd. But that was good, because I helped him pass religion. Okay? But there are 5 things we kind of learned, and we got here from DeMatha. Again, whether you research, whether you're an athlete, whatever you do. And I just, you know, briefly want to give you that. One is, it prepared us. 40 years ago, my classmates here, and those who are not here, we would be in the middle of our first semester at college at this point in time. And for us, a lot of us, while college was hard, we were prepared because we had calculus for people like Rocco Manella, chemistry for people like Jane Helmut. You learned a lot because this class made a lot of groundbreaking. We were one of the first classes to have us people in our class go to Maryland in our senior year to take courses. Our class did very well on AP exams, especially AP history, especially my first class in world history. I had a teacher named Morgan Wooten. He'd walk in and always say, "Men." Never had anybody call me a man before. We all were boys, but we were men. And one of the things we learned about history was those that failed to plan to fail. We had people like Joe Carroll, who taught us English. And so we got through college. Some of us went to Catholic U, some of us went to Maryland and other places because we were prepared. The next thing we had was perseverance that was taught here. Okay? Again, to Rocco Manella. When we had those hard classes in college, we were over his house. He was teaching us calculus. Some of us went on to graduate school. Gabe Hosmer, who couldn't be here, was one of the first white students to go to Howard University and persevere. Okay? And then, for example, what we also learned was about community. A lot of us, before the food that we had today here, a lot of us had to eat food from mob duty. And because of that, we had to learn to give back. Okay? And so, over time, you know, we learned it's not about the accumulation of wealth that's important. That's one thing we learned at DeMatha. It's about the accumulation of knowledge. Now, I talked about perseverance. DeMatha really is a tough school. I mean, a lot of people think, you know, DeMatha is just about athletics, but when I saw the signs, scholars and gentlemen, I was really proud because it made me, you know, really prepare. I mean, I had to get 2 high school diplomas in order to graduate from this place. Okay? And we won't go into that. But one thing it did teach me was a fourth trait, which is forgiveness. Because while there were a number of things that I had when I was here at DeMatha, and we all know some of the history, I have to say one thing that really touched me was back in the late 90s and 2000s, I got a call from, God bless his soul, Father Boniface and Rick Reeves to come here for a science fair. And I was looking at, judging some posters upstairs in the gym, and John Boyle, if he's around here, I know he is because I saw him earlier today, he came up to me and he said, Vic, I want you to talk to these students. And I said, why, John, what's up? He said, they were the Vic McCrary's. They're the Vic McCrary's now. He says, they're the radicals. And he says, you know what? I never minded the fact that you were a radical because it's extremely important. He says, but I want you to talk to them and inspire them. And so that just tells me, and I'll conclude, in the fifth trait that DeMatha really taught me, and that's courage. St. John of Matha had a vision when he celebrated his first Mass of a Christian and a Muslim slave. He stood up for that, raised money to give ransoms. And what I learned here through Rocco Manella, Jane Hellman, Buck Offit, Ray Smith, John Moylan, Morgan Wooten, Joe Carroll, and Father David. While we didn't agree on some things, and we did, I learned from DeMatha was that you have to speak up and stand up for what you believe. And I did. Is the public address system still on here? Okay. And for all the men and women and students out here, this is a day of confluence. And this is a day where I also tell you that we, as both Catholics and non-Catholics, face a lot of challenges. And I ask you, because your children will look at you, is to stand up for what you believe and encourage them to stand up for what they believe. That they can speak out and that they can hold their head high, because independent thought is extremely important. And that when they do that, that we as a nation, what Pope Francis is doing, we can always stand up and make sure, for sure, that there is liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.